So Sam Bankman-Fried has filed an appeal of his guilty verdict. He's currently serving out his 25-year sentence. But lawyers for the FTX founder say that the judgment should be reversed. They're asking for a new trial in front of a different judge. Now, Bankman-Fried is saying that his trial wasn't fair and that there was a rush to judgment. His lawyers are specifically characterizing this as a sentence first, verdict afterward scenario, that 89-page legal filing claiming that the assertion that Bankman-Fried stole billions of dollars worth of customer money, driving the company into bankruptcy, has since been proven wrong. Part of that narrative, of course, coming from the fact that the bankruptcy estate under John Ray is making customers whole.
Places that will be hailing, getting Ubers, and almost maybe expect that it's driverless?
Well, I think that we're incredibly excited that this great technology is now is expanding, and we're incredibly excited to be expanding with Waymo, who we think is the leader in terms of driverless technology. And Jim, this is really cool tech. If you've ever taken a ride in a Waymo, it is an absolutely delightful experience, and we're very much looking forward to introducing it to the folks in Atlanta, Austin as well.
Now, yes, I've been in Waymo. I actually said, look, let's go to the best pizza place. It took me right there. It was really kind of has a brain. But I wanted to know about what you're doing in terms of municipalities. Sometimes, like we have in Phoenix, I couldn't go to the Super Bowl a couple years ago because what would happen is once you went out of Phoenix, you weren't allowed to be driverless. How are the municipalities handling what you want to do?
Well, anytime we expand in any city, we want to be in very close contact with the municipalities to make sure that we're expanding in a safe way, in a way that makes sense in terms of traffic flows, what their goals are. That said, our intention is to bring Waymo and Uber together in markets in Atlanta and Austin in a fairly broad way. It'll take time for us to grow, but the intention is for you to be able to get, Waymo through Uber wherever you live in those cities.
Dara, you mentioned the municipalities, but it's notable, of course, that Austin is the home to a very large company called Tesla, which has its own ambitions. Did that have anything to do with the rollout there, or is it specific to the efforts they've been making there as well to accommodate these types of vehicles?
Oh, Austin is a big, fast-growing market. Texas is a terrific state and obviously a big market for us. So that was really the consideration. We were trying to find a couple of other markets to partner with Waymo in, and Atlanta and Austin turned out to be great targets for us.
To the extent you've seen some behavior of your consumer base already, what is the willingness of people to order a autonomous Uber?
Well, people are very open to it, and we're seeing actually the percentage of accept rates when offered an autonomous vehicle going up generally. There are some people who aren't ready for it. But I think the more you see these cars in the street, the more you see how safe they are, how cool they are, the acceptance rates are going to go higher and higher. And we make sure with our technology to dispatch the car to you when there's a pickup zone or drop-off zone that's convenient. So we want to make sure that the experience is a top experience as well. And we think with that kind of experience, more and more people will want to experience autonomous.
Dara, I'm guessing at this point, for those who, as you say, might be a little reticent, you probably have some kind of 30-second pitch on what they can expect or how they should feel about it if they're taking a ride for the first time.
Yeah, we tell them a little bit about the car itself, what the experience is like, what the pickup and the drop-off is like, and people are very open to it. And again, I think if you take a ride, and we're very much looking forward to the folks in Austin, Atlanta taking a ride, they will want to take another and another.
Let's give an example. Under Trump's plan is to extend the tax cuts that he did previously, and that would provide stability. Corporate rate would stay at 21%. Capital gains would stay where it is. The Biden-Harris, they want to raise the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%. They want to raise the capital gains tax from 20% to 39%. And then they want to add a tax on unrealized capital gains of 25%. I think if they implement those policies, we'll see a crash in the markets. No question about it, yes. And if now people pay 20% tax, it becomes 40%, it's going to have a big
Well, they would need Congress to be able to do that. That's a big wild card.
Well, the thing is, the tax the Trump tax cuts expire automatically. So all the rates go back to what they were previously. So it would be quite draconian. So I think, we'd see a fall in the markets, and that would impact growth.
The future of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac could be determined by who wins the White House in November. The Wall Street Journal's got a fascinating new report this morning saying that former Trump administration figures that and some bankers have been discussing plans on trying to end U.S. government control of the mortgage finance giants should former President Trump win the presidential elections. According to what they're calling people familiar with the matter, the talks have been underway since at least this past spring, include reaching out to investment managers for advice on how to get the deal done. Trump confidants, including former NEC Director Larry Kudlow, is apparently behind some of this. Former Director of the White House Presidential Personnel Office, John McEntee. Trump campaign saying former president has never said, though, anything about this throughout the race.
Good morning, Frank. Well, yeah, the only black female senator has introduced legislation to make sure that black and Hispanic communities are ready for the future of AI. This is a bill from Senator LaFonza Butler, and it would create a $250 million grant program focused on giving students, teachers, workers the skills and education that they need to understand and work with AI. Now, the bill specifically mentions historically black colleges and universities, as well as other minority-serving institutions. And in addition to allocating this funding, would require the federal government to study how AI in the workforce is going to impact various demographics, and then go ahead and use that study to inform how the grants are given out. The bill is backed by a number of major unions, as well as Microsoft. Fred Humphreys, the corporate vice president of U.S. government affairs for Microsoft, said in a statement that the bill, quote, will help further the understanding of the impact and opportunities of AI on workers, while also supporting new and innovative AI literacy and skilling initiatives across our nation.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you join the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And guys, make sure you go like and follow the TikTok. And make sure you're spreading it everywhere. And now we have the bank man appeals a fraud conviction. And we know eventually he's going to get a pardon. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you, we know what the bank man was really working on, and he's going to help the fourth industrial revolution. Now we have Uber and Waymo. And guys, who owns Waymo? That's right, Alphabet, which is better known as Google. Guys, remember, there is no competition when it comes to these corporations. They all work together in order to move us over to this new digital economy. So just imagine, when you have Uber and Waymo coming together, how many people that's going to be out of work, and then they start adding in the big rigs. Remember what I told you, 2025 to 2028, you're going to be in a whole nother different world. Now we have John Paulson telling the truth about the economy, and CNBC has been bringing in guests to tell the truth. Why, guys? Because they know it's ready to come on down. We know the government has to cut the deficit. And then also, these taxes are definitely going to start going up. And it doesn't matter who takes office. And yes, the market is going to crash. But guys, we know the NWO stocks and cryptos rise in the fourth industrial revolution. And the same thing goes with the economy. The economy definitely is going to take a hit. But these big corporations are going to be left standing. If you have the NWO book, remember what I put in there. Your corporations are going to be your new government. If you look at all these fast food restaurants, remember, it was $10, $15, $20 just for a meal. What have they all done? Now bought back $5 menus. There's no way a mom and pop is going to be able to compete with that. It's impossible. And the lower income and those living paycheck to paycheck are going to go to those fast food restaurants and take advantage of those $5 meals, especially if you have a family. You can't blame them. My whole family can eat for $20 versus $100. You definitely can't blame them. But remember what Yeshua told his disciples. Don't be deceived, because that's all we've been having is deception. And we know that's what Nassau means, deception. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And CNBC pulls off a deception move. Says that Trump has views on Freddie Mac, but then comes back and says Trump campaign says they haven't said anything about it. And this is how the news media works. It's all about the Hegelian dialectic to move the agenda. And guys, why would blacks and Latinos need a bill for equality in AI if it wasn't already a system set up against them? None of this ever makes any sense. Why do I need to know your race or your gender when I'm applying for a job if it doesn't matter? Why do I need to put my race if I'm applying for a house or a car if it doesn't matter? Guys, you got to play the game. And those who can read between the lines understand what I just said. Now we have the White House targets Chinese companies Temu and Shein. But we know the two sides have already been created. It's going to be more and more tensions in order to bring the two to collide. And Anthony Sutton told us this decades ago. And we know the banks fund both sides because there always is an agenda, and that's to bring in the fourth industrial revolution. But don't forget what Janet Yellen has stated when she went over to China. She wanted to start cutting down the surplus. And we have the Fed in the house this week. And people want to work but can't find jobs. Finally, CNBC have someone on there that's telling the truth. Unemployment is rising, especially with the good jobs. And guys, we know the labor market is bad, but it looks like the Fed still is only going to cut 25 basis points. Remember, guys, this is a plan. They want the legacy market to crumble so the digital economy can rise. But they're going to be raising rates right into inflation. And it's just going to get worse over these next couple years. You're going to have small and medium-sized businesses crumble right along with the small and medium-sized banks. But at the same time, you're going to have the robots, algorithms, and drones taking the economy over. And we know that's the master plan. And we have smartphones being removed from schools. And guys, are they removing it so to help the kid? Or are they removing it for another agenda? And we know it's for another agenda. They don't need to remove the smartphones. They need to change the algorithm. Guys, we know in China, those algorithms are showing those kids how to create, how to start businesses. Remember, technology can be used for good or evil. Our algorithm is showing them how to do pranks and dance and listen to this crazy music. But these are just times to make sure you're re-educating the kids. And remember, the Cryptoteacher told you. Because he knows, when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
The bills put forth this week are not likely to go anywhere, but the signal is clear to China. And I wonder how you sort of think about what the Chinese response will be, particularly because either in a Harris or a Trump administration, it appears that they will both be hawkish on China and that there will be sort of these barriers to trade being put up.
Yeah, good to see you, Melissa. Thanks for having me. Look, I think you're right. The Chinese are not going to be happy about what was largely China Week, as you said, is that there is still a restrictive and increasingly more restrictive environment with respect to trade and economic engagement with China. We know that the Chinese foreign minister has raised some of these issues with his counterpart. We know that this is something that they are likely going to figure out a way to hit back on if any of these bills actually become law. But, you know, the important part here, Melissa, is these would be laws, not policies that are going to change. When you're dealing with Congress and legislation, I say to people, pay attention, because this does not move with the policy whims once it becomes law. It is set, and it's the law of the land. And I think for China, legislation in particular is a big challenge, because this cannot be undone with some policy conversations with whatever the administration's rule. The de minimis rule is long overdue. That this rule was no longer fit for purpose, put in place to try and reduce the administrative burdens on Customs and Border Protection when these were low cost and low volume, packages coming into the U.S. If you believe the data coming out of the U.S. government, in 2023, we saw over 1 billion of these packages flooding onto the market, and Temu and Shein, two companies in particular, who've taken advantage of this. they have damaged, I would say, a lot of U.S. consumers. But to your point, this is not just going to impact Temu and Shein. There are other companies, third-party sellers on Amazon, that could be impacted from the closure of this particular loophole. There's a 30 to 60-day comment period. Tim, I'll be watching carefully to see what U.S. businesses are saying they would like to see this rule softened a bit so that it doesn't impact them. But the main target here were the two big Chinese e-commerce giants that are really crushing it. I think we're in some uncharted waters here, Melissa, in terms of what the action-reaction cycle can be. You know, China is going to always, we saw this during the Trump era with the 301 tariffs, be careful not to harm their long-term interests in how they respond. But they may find ways, either direct or indirect, as we talked about, asymmetrically to hit back on what they see as an attack on some very specific Chinese companies within the Biosecure Act. I think it's up in the air. They know that this is not going to become law anytime soon. This stuff will literally just wait until a lame duck to see if it can be rolled into an omnibus package or something at the end of the year. So they have some time. I think they will certainly be looking at ways in which they can hit back if this indeed becomes law.
If you look at the employment, the participation rates of prime age, so working age adults, they are really at high levels. People want to be working in a way that wasn't, even true, before the pandemic. So that's a really positive sign. What the most disconcerting metric on the labor market right now is the hiring rate. It is back to levels in 2014 when we had a 6% unemployment rate. If you are looking for work right now, it is much harder than it is if you have a job and keeping a job. And that's a problem. We need those hiring rates up so we get those young adults and others who want to rejoin labor force back to work.
Would you do 50 or 25?
Absolutely 50. I think the inflation data on its own, we got 2 more months of good inflation data. That's what the Fed asked for. That on its own would have gotten us 25 next week, as it should, and would get us a whole string of cuts after that. The federal funds rate is over 5% and has been there for over a year to fight inflation. That fight is won. They need to start getting out of the way. And then what we've really learned since the July FOMC meeting is the labor market has weakened. And even what we thought we knew about the labor market last July has gotten weaker. We've had revisions to months, annual revisions that look like they're going to be pretty weak. So there's an aspect of just recalibrating. We got some more information. Need to kind of clean it up, do a 50 basis point cut, and then be ready to do more. And especially if Powell wants to deliver on his, we want no further weakening, no further cooling, they are going to have to really move here, because that cooling trend is well established. And until it is interrupted, we are going to continue to see payrolls drift down and unemployment rate drift up.
Meantime, bans of smartphones in schools are starting to pop up across the country. Our Julia Borston's breaking that down and explaining who's benefiting from that. Hey, Julia.
Hey, Carl, that's right. A growing number of smartphone bans are creating a business boom for more basic technology, a trend that's affectionately called dumb tech. Now, 9 states have enacted laws or policies restricting K-12 cell phone usage in schools, including 4 states fully banning smartphones in schools. And here in Los Angeles, the second largest U.S. school district, a ban on smartphones in schools will be put into effect early next year. With the U.S. Surgeon General calling for a warning on social media apps, parents and schools are thinking about alternatives to the current trend of giving kids smartphones. The National Institute of Health estimates that as many as 53% of children have a smartphone by age 11.
Going to a different economy. And we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, And then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe this technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting it more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets.
Now, it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence. And
Cryptoteacher and the new World Order book, plus the 3 Kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get home stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing, they were still getting that free money. What are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.